That's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, the inside story on Bergdahl. Joining us from Washington, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, military analyst who has been the point man on the Bergdahl case for The Factor.
Bill?
So you predicted mid-March for a decision, just a few days off.
Right.
What happened behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes, we talked about it a little bit last week, Bill. There was some horse trading attempts. Horses didn't get traded, and I think I think you would have probably heard this last week. Had the prosecution side, the Army side, decided that the deal had been taken. It wasn't, and I think the Army had no choice but to do the right thing. And let me say that I'm very proud of the Army for basically not buckling to the presidential pressure to make this quietly go away. So I think what you've seen here, Bill, is the situation play out, albeit glacially. General Milley wanted to go through this linear foot of documentation. God bless him for doing it, and I think we've gotten the answer, which I think is appropriate regarding the factual circumstance.
All right. So just to recap, when we spoke last time, the Army is trying to make a deal with Bergdahl's attorney, who's a civilian, to try to plea out some of this stuff so there wouldn't be an embarrassing trial for the Army and the Obama administration. Apparently, the counselor for Bergdahl said, no deal. We'll take our chances at trial. And now what's going to happen is the members of Bergdahl's unit are going to come in and say, hey, he put us in danger. Some of our guys were killed searching for him.
That's right.
And Bergdahl will be convicted and could very well be sentenced to life in prison if the testimony is that strong.
In addition to that, Bill, there's intelligence information. This is the rest of the story. I think one of the reasons the Army went with the Article 99 charge, which was the misbehavior before the enemy, is because I think there's strong intelligence evidence that says that he did more than simply walk over to the enemy. Let's be blunt. He gave aid and comfort to the enemy by his presence there, by the fact that he was able to help the Taliban leverage the release of 5 Taliban leaders. So that cannot be underscored in any such way other than to say this was as bad as it gets.
All right.
So
now, I don't want to speculate, and I don't want to convict Bergdahl. He's innocent until proven guilty in this country. He'll get his day in a military court.
Right.
Was I unfair to General Milley? Because I pounded him for taking far too long to come up with this decision, because we knew what the evidence was. Everybody knew what the evidence was. He had all of it together in October. We put intense pressure on the Army, as you know. So I don't want to be unfair to the general. Do you think I was?
I think the Army, once in a while, needs a kick in the pants. There's nothing wrong with having due diligence thrust upon the leadership to say, we're watching you. Be honest with you, Bill, God bless you for staying ahead of this. I mean, had it not been for you and the Factor pushing this, and look, your staff was on top of this, asking me questions all the time, is there anything new? So I think if not for the pressure, you could take the chance of this kind of quietly going away, going off the radar. And so at a critical time, this is back on the table, Bill. At the same time, we now have the Taliban 5 leaders being on the cusp of being released, which now needs to really put pressure on Congress to do the investigation they've already started, to look at the other options President Obama had before him. As you point out in your talking points memo, this was a bad decision. President Obama had better options, and he chose to go with this one.
Well, it's so embarrassing for him, and we're glad we put the pressure on the Army, because I think that the folks, all Americans and people around the world, had a right to know.
That's right.
What was done in their name. Remember, President Obama does these things in our name. We elected him, and we need to be protected. And when you let 5 top terrorists out of prison for a dubious swap, and now we know it was a swap for a guy the Army feels actually killed some other service people searching for him. That's the key.
That's the key, and the Taliban are going back. 3 of them are already in contact with their Taliban compatriots in Afghanistan.
Oh,
we're still in contact. We're still in contact with the enemy.
Right.
This is bad.
They're all going to go back. What do you think? These guys are going to open up a used car dealership in Kabul? I mean, look at them. They'll all be back, and they'll all be directing operations, and this puts everybody in danger, including military people.
They're going back as rock stars.
Good job, and now we'll go into the trial mode. And
yes, sir.
we'll
Article 32.
Trial.
That's right.
Next on the rundown.